Let's talk about women's hormones. When I do genetic consults, I talk to a lot of women about hormones for various reasons, and it's a major issue because the medical system does not train doctors to pay close attention to hormones. They ignore them unless there are symptoms or some major problem. So even if you have extremely low levels of hormones, this will get ignored because there are not patents on hormones. So the drug companies don't make a ton of money on them. So again, they get ignored. Let's start with menopause and perimenopause. On average, progesterone is the first hormone to start declining, and the average age is 38 when progesterone starts to go down. I imagine you didn't realize it was at such an early age, but that's the average. Low progesterone is a huge problem for sleep because, as you can see here, progesterone supports sleep by acting as a natural sedative that enhances GABA activity in the brain, helping to reduce anxiety, decrease wake time, and improve sleep quality. The classic symptom of low progesterone, as you may know from experience, you wake up at 3 a.m. and you can't get back to sleep. That's super low progesterone. And if your sleep is poor, your overall health declines and you need a lot of prescription drugs to prop you up. So the pharma companies benefit by classifying these hormones as drugs and making you get them through prescriptions, which is a challenge and an extra expense with the bloated healthcare costs from all the corruption in the healthcare industry already. Also, you should know that progesterone does not just improve sleep, it has significant anti-inflammatory effects. Significant. So if you have less inflammation, that means you have less arthritis because arthritis is defined by an overactive immune system. And having less inflammation equals less heart disease because even institutions like the Mayo Clinic, where I used to work until they started forcing the COVID vaccine, Mayo Clinic says atherosclerosis slowly gets worse, which is nonsense if you address the root cause. But they rightly say artery damage may be caused by inflammation. Even hypertension, which is often mistakenly blamed on salt and sodium, is clearly inflammation driven. Here is a medical journal saying it is clear that inflammation plays a pivotal role in the development and maintenance of hypertension. Even the medical system admits to this, despite their pharma-centric approach when you have hypertension. Honestly, even weight gain is driven by chronic inflammation. And we could go on with medical conditions that are chronic from inflammation. The point is, progesterone is anti-inflammatory, and it also supports metabolic function by increasing the resting metabolic rate. You know what else is anti-inflammatory and therefore protective against big pharma products? Estradiol, the main form of human estrogen. And nobody tells you this. They always tell you estrogen causes breast cancer, which was debunked by an MD and a PhD in the book Estrogen Matters in 2018. Obviously, if you give women hormones derived from horse urine, and yes, they still sometimes do this to this day, it's not natural hormone replacement therapy, it's horse hormones. You might have some weird health problems that arise from this, but breast cancer has increased 250% since 1980. And it's not just because we've given so many women estrogen from horses, it's because of all the synthetic estrogens I wrote about in 2017 in Estrogeneration, my book. Furthermore, when women are pregnant, their estrogen goes from approximately 200 to 2,000. How many pregnant women do you know that have breast cancer? 0. This is because the sky-high estrogen is balanced out by the progesterone. You don't want to take estrogen in isolation of progesterone. That wouldn't be natural, and maybe that might increase your breast cancer risk if you have certain genetic risks. I analyze those risks when I do DNA consulting with people. But the point is, the healthy aspects of estrogen for bone density. It's essential for maintaining bone density, and nobody is trained to tell you that if you have weak bones or osteoporosis because they want to give you bisphosphonate drugs. It's all about those pharma products. Medical doctors are being trained more and more as pharmaceutical sales reps than ever before. But hopefully the tide is slowly turning, and I think it is. But the bisphosphonates don't reverse bone loss like natural hormones do. They slow down the bone loss. So you still get worse, you continue to lose bone, but it just prolongs the process rather than actually helping you regain the bone density with proper vitamin D and K2 and hormones. And by the way, vitamin D is technically a sex hormone. If it was discovered today, it would be classified not as a vitamin, but as a hormone because it acts more like a sex hormone than a vitamin. Especially if you understand that all sex hormones are made from cholesterol. And vitamin D is, of course, made from cholesterol. Again, making it relevant in the discussion of bone density and sex hormones. If you understand how sex hormones interacted inside your nucleus, directly on DNA, by the way, you'd realize that vitamin D is definitely in that class, and it's important to this conversation. Make sure your blood levels of 25-hydroxyvitamin D3 are above 50. Mayo Clinic recently lowered their normal range for D3, vitamin D3, to accommodate average Americans. They say the range should be 20 to 50, while I say it should be at least over 50 based on scientific studies from Dr. Michael Hollick from Boston University Medical School, my alma mater, by the way. And he got fired for some of his stances. But that's a topic for a different video. But I haven't even mentioned testosterone here, which is not just anti-inflammatory, it is a potent anti-inflammatory agent. And of course, it significantly increases bone density. How many men do you know that have osteoporosis? And yet, you never hear about this from the medical establishment, that women have higher levels of testosterone than estrogen their entire lives. Did you know this? Women have more testosterone than estrogen on average. This is a graph from a medical journal article titled Testosterone Therapy in Women, Myths and Misconceptions. And they quantified the levels of testosterone, T stands for testosterone here, and estradiol, E2 stands for estradiol in women. If I remember, this is an average of 800 women in this study, and it says that throughout the female lifespan, testosterone is the most abundant active steroid. Steroid means sex hormone. Now here's where the medical industry gets a bit devious. They say the normal total testosterone levels in women range between 15 and 70. They're not showing optimal levels, of course, but just normal. But notice the units, nanograms per deciliter. Okay, let's look at E2, which stands for estradiol. Again, the major estrogen in humans. It says it varies based on time of the month, and it's 15 to 400 picograms per milliliter. You see that? Picograms rather than nanograms. The reason I say this is devious is because it makes testosterone seem lower than estrogen by the manipulation of the units. And the doctors don't usually ever check women's testosterone or any of their hormones, honestly, unless they have a serious health problem. But I think women should be checking their hormones regularly and boosting them back up as they decline if you want optimal health. Bioidentical hormones are not drugs, even though they are prescription only. They're found in nature. They are not patented. Don't think of them as drugs. And every woman should be on them during and after menopause because you all want the benefits of these hormones. The exact dosing is challenging, but worth working on. And the gold standard metric is how do you feel? How do you feel? If you're still waking up at 3 a.m., you probably need more progesterone, for example. Even men sometimes have low progesterone, and it messes up our sleep. The complicated aspect to hormones is that they're very dependent on receptors, the things that stick to the hormones inside your body. And you can only measure receptors doing biopsies by taking a chunk of your body, which nobody is going to do. We do this for scientific research studies, so we have a good idea of how it works. And genetics give you an amazing insight into your body's responses to hormones. So I recommend a DNA consult with AJ Consulting Company, but ultimately the blood test is not the gold standard. How you feel is the gold standard for hormone replacement. You should at least be taking all three of these hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. And it's never too late to start. You just may need to work up slowly with doses if you start at age 70 or something like this. But you want all the anti-inflammation and other positive benefits from these hormones, even if your body has adapted to terrible levels after years and years and years of being low. Again, the dosing varies, and it's almost more of an art than a science. And unfortunately, the conventional medical doctors are not well trained in hormone science because it's not related to selling pharma products. The one thing they patent is the delivery of these hormones via pellets. So sometimes doctors like to push pellets because you need to go in every month and get injected, and the delivery process makes money for pharma companies. But I'd suggest getting rid of that nonsense and get the cream for all three of these hormones. Take estrogen and testosterone in the morning and progesterone before bed. Just put the cream on your leg. That's generally ideal, but talk to your doctors and don't be afraid to have a strong opinion about this because it's your health. It's not theirs, it's yours, so they aren't as motivated as you to become optimized. Those crazy pellets are often falling out, they get infected, you can't adjust the dose. If your dose is off for the month, just get the cream. I'm not a fan of hormones as pills either because pills can be stressful for your body in different ways. So I'm not a fan of progesterone pills. They're better than nothing, but not the best approach. Vitamin D is a hormone that can be taken as a pill because certain foods have vitamin D, like animal products and mushrooms. Animal products are always the best source of vitamins, by the way. So our bodies are well adapted to taking that up through our small intestine, but that's an exception, not the rule for steroid hormones. This is why bodybuilders never do steroid pills. They do injections or creams. They don't want to destroy their liver. Now, one last thing here for younger women. Around age 35, start checking your sex hormones on blood tests, estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone. And make sure your testosterone is at least 30, by the way. But do the blood test about 3 to 5 days after your period. It differs slightly for different people, but 3 to 5 days is probably where you want to be. There's some nuance here for unusual situations, but let's just talk generally and focus on most people here. The thing about your hormones, and you already know this, they dramatically change based on the time of the month. Even testosterone goes up a bit during ovulation. And this is a representative graph from Hormonology, but there's a ton of graphs just like this in various textbooks and medical journals. The point is, you don't want to test estrogen later in the month because you might catch it here or here or here on some high spike or some low crash. You want to catch it when it's the most stable. You want to catch all the hormones when they're stable, so you have a good relative baseline that you can compare to in the future. Keep in mind, every woman is different when they spike or crash for estrogen and progesterone and even testosterone, so you're better off measuring at the most stable time of the month. Plus, even with the same person, some months will be different. So day 14 might be a peak, it might be a valley for the same person if you just aim for day 14 after your period for blood testing. I just wanted to add that to give you some direction and cut through some of the nonsense about hormone replacement and blood testing that I see. There's a lot of fear-mongering in this area and a lot of intentional confusion because these things lead to profits for pharma companies. And those companies are insanely powerful, will probably never be able to extract their corrupting influence in our culture due to the amount of money they make. But I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you in person if you want to do a DNA consult with your Ancestry or your 23andMe data.